So let's look at that question and let's try to factor it. So factor y equals negative 24x squared plus 6 to find the x-intercepts or the zeros. So what do I have to do? What's the first question you ask yourself? Do I have a common factor? Is there a common factor? It's going to have to be negative 6 because 6 is divisible by, you can divide both 24 and 6 by 6, but because my first term is a negative, I must factor out a negative as well. So it's going to be negative 6. If I divide both terms by negative 6, what do I get? Negative and negative makes it positive, so positive 4x squared and a negative 1. Okay? So I did my first step, which is a common factor. Then I'm going to ask myself, is it a binomial or a trinomial? Binomial. Is it a difference of squares? Do I have two squared terms? Yes, I do. 4 is a squared number. X squared is a squared number. 1 is a squared number. If you don't believe me, look at your green sheet on the back, right? Is there a minus between them? Yes, there is. So it is a difference of squares. So all what it takes right now, put two brackets. What do I put in the middle? A plus and a minus. And then square root the first term. So that's going to be 2x. Square root 1 is 1. Square root of 4x squared is 2x. Square root 1 is 1. So these are my factors. Now I have to find the zeros. How do I do that? Set each bracket equal to 0. So when I do that, I have to solve for x. First step is I bring the 1 over. When I bring the 1 over, it becomes a negative 1. Now, x is not by itself, right? So you see that x is still, it still has a 2 in front of it. So how do I get rid of that? Divide each side by 2. So it's going to be negative 1 over 2. Okay? And this is why we do this process, because if we have a number in front of the x, we want to be able to get rid of it. Do the same thing for the other bracket. So 2x minus 1 equals 0. Bring the minus 1 over, so it becomes 2x equals 1. And divide by 2. So I'm going to get x equals to a half. So in this case, I have two zeros, positive 1 and a negative. Part C says factor y equals negative 4x squared plus 24x to find the zeros of the relation. So do I have a common factor? Remember that common factor, you're not only looking at the numbers, but you're also looking at the letters, right? So I can divide both terms by negative 4. Perfect. But you see that both terms have x's in them, right? And then the lowest exponent is 1. So I can factor out a negative 4x.
Courtesy of your local union.
So let's see what happens when I divide. When I divide negative 4x squared by negative 4x, what do I get? Just an x, right? Because negative 4 and negative 4 cancel. X squared over x gives me an x. What happens when I divide 24x by negative 4x? Minus 6, that's right. So the x's will cancel. Now here's the question. How do I find my zeros?
By putting
equal the bracket equal to 0, right? So I have x minus 6 equal to 0. So that would be x equals to 6. Is that my only answer?
Yes.
No. You see that x that's outside the bracket? That's an x, right? If I set this one equal to 0, what do I get?
Positive 4. Oh, divide by.
Divide by negative 4 to get rid of that negative 4. What's 0 divided by negative 4? 0. So x equals to 0. Right? Because that x doesn't have anything with it. It's x minus 0 or x plus 0, but I don't write it because it's weird to write this. There's no reason for me to write that plus 0. Okay? So if I plug in a 0 here, it's going to cause my whole equation to be a 0. Because negative 4 times a 0 is 0, and then 0 times anything is 0. Okay? So it's important to remember to set that x that's outside equal to 0. So in this case, I'm going to have 2 zeros, one at 0 and one at 6. And then this is going to open downward, so it's going to look like this. Okay. Why is it opening downward? A is negative 4, right? This is where a lot of the problems, so people forget to set the negative 4x to 0 and they forget that they have that 0. Another problem is that instead of dividing by negative 4, they bring the negative 4 over as a plus. So these are the most common mistakes that I see. So make sure that you remember if x is by itself with not in bracket with a number, it's a 0. Okay. So this question right now is asking you to find the equation of the quadratic in factored form. So they're specific that they want you to find it in factored form using the picture provided. So you have the equation right. You have the graph right here. So since it's in factored form, can you guys give me the formula? Can you give me the equation in factored form? A bracket x. Yep. Since it's in factored form, what am I looking at on the graph? The zeros. So my zeros are negative 3 and 1. Okay? So I started by writing the generalized formula, which is I did up here, but it's already written for me here. So state the generalization of a quadratic in factored form. Then you're going to substitute the zeros in for R and S. Okay? So let's do that. So I have y equals a x minus 3, or negative 3, right? Because I have a negative 3 here. And then x minus 1. Instead of writing minus negative 3, what does it become? Positive 3. And I knew that because I know it's going to be opposite to what I see, but showing my steps doesn't hurt, right? Showing why doesn't hurt. Showing that because I have a negative here and then another negative, I'm going to get a positive. Okay, what else do I need to look for or do I need to find? What else is missing in my equation? The
A.
the A value. That A value should not be an A there. Should be a number. In order to find that A value, as we did with the vertex form, I need to find a point on the graph, plug it in for X and Y, solve for A.
Subject to zero.
Other than the zeros. You can't put the zeros in. Because if you put the zeros in, it's gonna be a mess. No, you have to find a point on the graph, right? So there is a graph right here. I have to find a point. In this case, they gave me the point 0.06, right? So they already gave me a point. But it could be the vertex. If your vertex is clear, right, which I don't know if it's clear here. I'm not 100% sure. But I know that this is clear, right? So I'm going to use that point and put it in as X and Y. Okay? So plug in X, which is 0, and Y is 6. But math tells me I have to do my brackets first. So that's going to be 0 plus 3 is 3. 0 minus 1 is negative 1. Okay. What else do I need to do?
Multiply.
Multiply what by what?
By A.
3 by negative 1, right? So what's 3 times negative 1?
Negative.
Negative 3a, right? So it's negative 3 multiplied by a. Okay? And then how do you isolate for a? What do you do? Divide both by negative 3. So what's my a then? 6 divided by negative 3 is? Negative 2. And after I do this, all what I have to do is put it all together and write it as negative 2 x plus 3 x minus 1. Does it make sense that my a value is negative? Yes, because I see a reflection, which means it's opening downward.